So, who of you already has a Revolut card? That's quite good. So, what we are doing is basically changing the way banking works. And to give you a bit of facts about Revolut, so we've founded the companies around 2 years ago. So far, we are the fastest growing fintech in Europe. We're close to reaching 1 million customers. We have a transaction volume of over $5 billion, and we grow by around 2,500 users every day. So what Revolut is basically a vision of building a global money network. So wherever you go in the world, you always just need to have Revolut. So whether you move to, let's say, Singapore, Los Angeles, London, or Lisbon, you don't have to create a new bank account. You can keep using Revolut, keep using all the advantages of Revolut, and saving a lot of money. So I give you a bit of introduction about what's currently wrong with the banking system, why certain things take a bit longer and more expensive than they should, what we are doing currently to actually solve this, and a bright look into the future, especially about crypto and the blockchain. So to go through an easy example about sending money. Who of you knows how bank transfer actually work? We have 1, 2, nice. So let's say we have Mike and Andre. Mike, both banks are operating in Portugal, so it's quite easy. Mike wants to transfer to Andre 250 euros. So it's fiat money. What happens is basically the money will be virtually transferred immediately. So it means that Andre's bank already has the virtual money. Andre can withdraw the money, but Santander doesn't actually own that part of the money. So that's because the payment networks are quite slow and just work around 3 times a day. So in the meantime, Santander has a big risk. It's because Andre could withdraw the money and then Barclays never sends the money actually to Santander. So what happens to de-risk the whole thing is you have some sort of central banks. So every country has a central bank of Portugal, central bank of United Kingdom. You have a central bank for Europe. And that works in a way that basically the central bank says you can trust me. They're usually operated by the state. And I say that you can trust both banks. So basically Barclays can trust Santander and Santander can trust Barclays. So although the money didn't actually move from Barclays to Santander yet, basically the central bank actually guarantees that this money will be transferred. So a bit more complex is now if you look at international money transfers. So let's say we have Mike and Andre again. Mike lives in the US. His account is in dollars. And we have Andre who lives in Portugal and who has his account in euros. So the thing is, there is no global central bank. So how do you actually move the money from the US to Europe? So what happens is basically Mike's bank in the US says, okay, I need to transfer you dollars, and the recipient wants to receive it in euros. So I actually have to exchange the money. The bank in the US doesn't actually have euros, so what they do is they ask another bank if they could exchange that money. So that money obviously charges the customer something for the exchange, but actually don't have euros. So what they do is basically go to the next bank, and the next bank, and the next bank, and this could take up to 5 banks in the process. So the issue is, since this is not really documented anywhere, that money transfer is completely lost. So let's say the third bank or the fourth bank does something wrong or something gets delayed. It's completely intransparent actually where the money is, how much the bank's going to charge, and therefore it's impossible to predict how fast an international bank transfer actually takes. So some of them take 2 days, some of them take 5 days, some of them even take 10 days. So what's the solution to this problem, and how can we actually make instant payments in the future? So what companies like Revolut do is basically we go through the local market, we set up entities in the local market, and then we transfer through the local banks and do an internal transfer. So to give you a better understanding of this, let's say you have the US bank. So there's a central bank in the US. So Mike's bank actually checks with the central bank and transfers it to the Revolut account in the US. The central bank basically guarantees that the money actually is the money transfer is actually happening, and therefore that process is quite fast and efficient. Then we basically do an internal transfer in Revolut to our European entity, and from there we basically transfer it to Andre's bank account. So using this concept, you basically can get rid of all the 5 banks in between, and you don't have the cost involved to actually transfer the money. Another option is basically if you have users on both sides. So it's basically peer-to-peer sending of money. So we have, let's say, Mike in the US and Andre, they're both Revolut users. So when they're sending money, we can do it internally, immediately. So Mike doesn't have to wait, Andre doesn't have to wait until Mike's money actually arrives. Basically because Revolut guarantees that this money will be transferred. And because it's completely internal, we have complete transparency about what's happening when. So what's coming next is essentially like blockchains and cryptocurrencies. It's a topic that most of the banks try to avoid talking about. We believe actually it's the future, for the reason that it gives complete transparency about what's happening in the whole market, and you can immediately see the money flows from every transaction. So for those of you who don't know how the blockchain works, it's essentially, let's say Mike wants to do a transfer to Andre. So what he does is basically creates a new transaction which is called block. The block gets spread to the whole network, and then it gets validated by the network that this transaction actually happened. That's also called mining. If you then transfer the block to the entire blockchain, basically the money movement is complete. And what that means for, in general, banking globally is that we can speed up money transfers, which are quite expensive nowadays, and also make it an immediate between every bank in the world. So how does cryptocurrency, so what's the role of cryptocurrency in this topic? Essentially, like Bitcoins, Litecoins, and so on are decentralized payment systems. So the money is basically not controlled by government or a region. Let's say we have Brazil, and well, the Brazilian central bank is probably not the most trustworthy in the world. So if you spread the risk over a decentralized system, basically you guarantee that people are having a harder time actually manipulating the market and making fake transactions. So because you have to have a majority of the whole network to actually make manipulations, this will increase like security across all payments internationally. And also spreads the risk what we have nowadays in local markets. So what is the current issue with cryptocurrencies? Essentially, cryptocurrencies are very hard to understand. The whole model is pretty intransparent. You need to go to pretty shady websites to actually put your payment details into it, or your identity checks, and then it takes quite a long time to actually purchase Bitcoins or even Litecoins, Ethereum, and what else the market offers. The reason for this is because I guess regular banks are still too afraid to actually integrate it into their product. And in the crypto world, which is mostly, which is built by the engineering community, user friendliness is still some sort of a topic. So what we are trying to do with the first phase is actually to make cryptocurrencies like mass market ready. So what it means is that in the first phase you can hold, exchange, and buy cryptocurrencies with the tap of one button. So essentially there's no difference between exchanging dollars into euros. You can do the same with Bitcoins, Litecoins, Ethereum, and so on. And the way we do this is basically we have a closed network in the beginning where we trade the Bitcoins for the real exchange rate. Why we don't open it in the beginning is because basically there are many reasons. One of them, or one of the biggest reasons, is identity theft, fraud, and all this, and also like a very unvolatile market. So what we're going to do like in October is launching like the first phase, making Bitcoins accessible to the mainstream public, and also giving the engineering community an easier and faster way of actually purchasing or exchanging cryptocurrency. So we have Charlie Lee, for example, the founder of Litecoin, who is like one of our first beta testers. He's very keen on actually using Revolut, especially for this, and we will add more in the future. So all of you that are actually interested into cryptocurrencies, that want to try out how it works, can come to me and give me their email, and we basically put you on the beta list. Well, basically that's it. That's like how we see how Bitcoins and Litecoins and the whole cryptocurrency can actually transform and make the whole market more transparent and easier. Does anyone have questions? Oh.
Hello.
Hi.
When are you planning to implement Dogecoin?
That's a good question. I have to check with our engineering team. So I think from the start on we support up to 15 cryptocurrencies, and we will add more like if there's more demand. Who else does have a question?
I saw you talked about Bitcoin and stuff like that. I didn't catch if you're changing your internal model to blockchain, if Revolut is going to be all blockchain, or if it's supporting blockchain as a wallet inside of your system.
So, I mean, we see it in multiple phases. Blockchain is definitely, in our opinion, like the future. How we approached this project was basically internally our engineers were very enthusiastic about like the whole crypto world, and they figured out that it's a bit hard to actually purchase and exchange crypto. So what they wanted to do was basically make it very easy and smooth to buy these and also exchange them again. For us, we believe since blockchain is the future, that this is like basically the first phase of actually transitioning into a fully blockchain-based business.
Interesting, because what you have now is like perfect in terms of how little, well, it's probably hard to operate, but in terms of platform is good, while going fully distributed for a single entity is generally not needed. So what's the rationale behind that?
I mean, we believe that in general, like the banking system of the future will be based on the blockchain. And therefore, if everyone in the world will adapt this new standard, international transfers also between other companies and other banks will be more efficient and faster. So, for example, if we take the bank transfer like the US to Thailand, it's very intransparent what's happening there. Like basically we have to call banks and chase them and figure out where the money actually gets lost, who put how many fees on top. And basically, a blockchain system in the future will radically reduce like that friction point and also the complexity of international money transfers. And as we can see, like there's more and more money transferred between or across the whole globe.
Okay, sorry for monopolizing this, but so you're seeing yourself keeping your blockchain within Revolut or opening it up? Because if you open it up, it kind of dilutes your business model, I guess, right?
I see what you're meaning. I mean, realistically, we want to be like that one platform that basically has all the money transfers in the world. But in the meantime, to actually get there, we probably need to open up to work together with other banks.
Thank you.
Hi. So, are you partnering with an exchange to buy and sell crypto, or building your own exchange? And if you're building your own exchange, will I be able to trade between pairs or not?
So I think we're building actually our own. What will happen is that currently buying crypto is quite expensive. I think it's like up to or starting for 3% commission. What we want to do is offer it way cheaper to everyone, make it easy accessible, and you can freely exchange from Bitcoin to Litecoin to Ethereum or whatsoever.
Okay, thanks.
Not sure if this question is for you, but what about the morality aspect? Like, for instance, I'm not an economist, but I know there's a lot of tools that the central banks can use to kind of manipulate the crisis and live out of it, not let it go down. And also, there's a lot of tools that you can do to stop bad businesses like drugs and stuff. Like, for instance, recently money showed up on a public toilet because they couldn't spend it, right? So what about you said that blockchain is the future. How do you see that future in morality aspects? Like, aren't we going to just jump collectively to the abyss, yeah.
Well, I think we should start like what a bank has to do in order like to do money transfers. So basically, we have to do a background check on every person. It's called KYC. We have to check if they're sanctions laced, if they're political exposed person, and so on. To basically prevent money, terrorist financing, and money laundering. So the thing is, there is no global network to basically say that person is like, for example, shady or not, or like this transaction looks a bit bad or not. And since banks don't really share anything about the transaction and about their KYC process, it's quite hard for a bank to actually trust another bank. So what happens is, and especially since you don't know the source of income, is that you can nowadays, through a lot of different bank transfers across the world, you can pretty good hide your roots and trace. And that's one thing that's not so easily possible with the blockchain, because it's basically, you need to have like a majority of the whole network to actually manipulate single transactions. So theoretically, it would be possible, but there are already services out there that let you trace back entire crypto transactions. So that's why we believe it's actually more secure and more transparent to what we have right now.
Hello, and before asking you, I need to congratulate you on the presentation. I don't know if you know, but around this the time we speak, Bitcoin is worth around 3,500 euros. And I don't know if you know about the upcoming 2x fork. So I wanted to hear your thoughts about that and on the implications that will have the price on Bitcoin, and if possibly another cryptocurrency might surge from this opportunity.
To be honest, I don't think I'm the perfect person to actually answer this, but if you want to, I can forward it to our lead engineer who actually developed this feature and has way more knowledge than me.
Okay.
There's
Hi, how do we get our free card?
You basically come to me, so since you mentioned it, so what we discussed with the organizer of Pixel Camp is that every participant of Pixel Camp will get a free card. So usually we sell them for €6, and that's the only cost that you actually have if you have a Revolut account. So the whole banking service that we offer is completely free. You can do international money transfers completely free. You can hold up to 26 currencies and exchange them with the real bank exchange rate. So whoever is interested in a Revolut card and might want some for friends or family, you can come later to me and get one. All right. Thank you.